Kapombe, who are in the government studio. Maybe now we can get some answers and get some understanding as to the rationale. Sam Mashirima?
Thank you, Yvonne, for that. And here in this government studio, we invited representation from the National Treasury. They were not available to join the conversation tonight. We invited the representation from the Budget Committee. The chairperson was not available. The vice chairperson was not available. The members from the majority side were not available, but they sent the agriculture chair, that is Dr. Kanyuthia Mutunga, who will be representing the side of the majority. We also invited different other leaders, but we also have the representation from the Kenya Revenue Authority, where we have Maurice Ore, who's the Deputy Commissioner there. Good evening, and I'm sure both of you have been able to listen to the conversations from the different studios that we've spoken to this evening. First of all, Dr. Mutunga, Kenyans feel as if they're being unfairly targeted, punished for their innovations that they're undertaking, because when you look at the various studios, that appears to be a theme.
Thank you very much, Sam, and I'm grateful to be here this evening. I've listened very carefully to the conversations, and I have the following probably to say, the following comments. One, when you listen to Kenyans, they argue as if it is too punitive. The taxation, the structure of it, the content of the taxation, the composition of what has already been brought on board is very punitive, and they're picking out on 4 issues mainly. These 4 issues are when it comes to the motor vehicle levy, the bread issue, the eco tax, and the tax on financial services. Then there are even arguments that they don't even feel adequately represented. And I think commenting on the finance bill, first of all, everyone in this country is entitled to a good environment, especially to do business. Let's say, first of all, for survival. And secondly, to do business and survive and make profits.
Great.
And some of the questions the Kenyans are asking is, what is value added in financial services, for instance? So, looking at the 4, if I may single out the 4.
Right.
First of all, the financial services have somehow touched on people who have not been formally taxed. This is most of them, of those who are likely now to be captured in this particular tax bracket, are mainly those who have not been included in the previous. Like one of the speakers has very carefully said, that some of those who are now going to be finding themselves paying taxes have not been quite involved in paying taxes. Why? Because they are not formally employed. If you look at the last finance bill, the last year's finance bill, and this finance bill, it seems to open up, to spread to others. Now, the levels of inclusion in this case now touch on the very delicate segment of the community, of the population, the hustler. And of course, the Kenya Kwanza government was voted in through the slogan of the hustler movement,
right,
and support the hustler. But these hustlers need an operating environment. These hustlers need to be facilitated in one way or another. The government has a plan that requires financing. This plan is what will moderate the environment into which these hustlers will do their business. It is this plan that is going to make sure that there is more employment created for Kenyans who are not employed, and therefore increase or rather open up more of the revenue base. It is through taxation that the government will continue expanding the boundaries in terms of developing the economy. Now, there are indicators that we don't need to lose sight of. First of all, the first indicator that we need to look at carefully, and in view of today's budget, is the fact that there is significant reduction in the fiscal deficit. Fiscal deficit that has been posted this afternoon is 3.3%. Last year's budget was around 5.2, 5.3%. A reduction of around 2% fiscal deficit on GDP is quite significant, if I may say that.
Right.
On the other hand, when you look at the economic indicators that people look at basically to assess whether the situation is that bad, is that, first of all, the inflation rates are low. The Kenyan inflation rates are really, I can give you the figures because I think I picked that from the conversation in Parliament.
Yeah.
There is also the issue of the shilling has strengthened, and we have gained as a country from the strengthening of the shilling. We have gained about 65 billion to the budget, and that's one of the reasons why we went to application the supplementary budget. On the other hand,
Daktari Mutunga, kwa sababu kuna wananchi ambao wanatazama na baadhi yao wametaja kwamba haya masuala ya ushuru nyinyi kama viongozi mnapoyazungumzia mnayafanya na kuwa magumu mno. Ukisema kuna fiscal deficit ya 3.3%, 5.2%, ukisema kuna inflation rate ambayo imeenda chini, unasema nini?
Okay, vile namaanisha kama ni inflation, namaanisha ile gharama ya ununuzi wa vitu kwa Kenya. Unajua kuna ile tunaita inaitwaje kwa Kiswahili but ya macroeconomic indicators. Yaani inaonyesha vile uchumi uko. Pengine ndugu yangu atanisaidia pale because he may have the language. But ile kitu ninasema ni kwamba uchumi unaibuka. The hope that Kenyans should have is that the economy is improving. There are clear signs of an improving economy. Kwa sababu ile pesa sisi tunatakana tu factor ile tunasema kuna bajeti yenyewe na kuna ile pesa inakuwa imepangiwa kukusanywa katika wakati. It means therefore that we are going to collect less, we are going to demand to look for less. In other words, if it is borrowing, we are going to borrow less. Now, some of the speakers have spoken about the way we have been missing the target. And probably, you know, if an economy has to grow, there must be deliberate engagement of a greater majority of the population in productive sectors. So if we have to encourage that, then SMEs must be, first of all, protected. We must be able to grow these SMEs. But even as we grow these SMEs, there must be ways of also SMEs giving back. Maybe what we need to look at is the figures, the proportions of, which the government is demanding, or rather the Finance Bureau is proposing. Okay. The proportions of 16% plus maybe 20% and so on. We need to go back there and look at them. However, we need to realize that every service provider in this country levies the consumer of the service. So since we are not able probably to have...
Yes, I hear you, and I just need to indicate here that we also invited the Finance and Planning Committee Chair, that is Honorable Kuria Kimani. He tells us this evening that he's still chairing a committee that is listening to the voices of the people, meaning public participation is still going on. We're still waiting for him. As soon as he's here, he'll be joining the panel. He had confirmed to be here this evening. And Maurice, you come from the Kenya Revenue Authority, and as you listen to Kenyans, I mean, all these are your clients. You collect revenue from them, you tax them, and they are saying that it's becoming too much. How much can the economy support at this moment? Because Dr. Kanyuthi here says that the SME sector has also to support. But if you have to look at it keenly, it is the end consumer that is bearing the brunt of all this. When do you stop?
Thank you very much. And let me thank you for inviting me to this discussion. And I've got to say that I've truly enjoyed the way the discussion is going on. And it gives me the feeling that actually Kenyans understand the taxes and the basis of charging these taxes. And that is what I wanted to talk about more. But when I listened to the debate, I realized that actually Kenyans understand why the government levies taxes. And when we go to the bill, I need to start with the problem that we have as a developing country. And we are not alone. Most developing countries have a problem in terms of aligning the tax system, and the challenges largely arise from, one, the issue of tax base. And one of the speakers talked about the issue of tax base. The other problem that we have is the issue of too many exemptions. Exemptions are everywhere. The other challenge that we have is compliance level. And the last problem, there are many, I'll talk only about those four for the time being. The other problem that we have is the structure of our economy, which is largely informal. And these are the things that when you look at the budget and the finance bill, and I need to clarify that the finance bill is still a proposal, which is subject to discussion, and I'm happy that we are having a discussion. The finance bill tries to address these problems in a way. If you look at the new taxes that have been brought in, the motor vehicle tax, the eco levy, the removal of certain exemptions is basically to address the issue of tax base expansion. And
so are you saying that people who have motor vehicles don't pay tax?
I need to come to that. Not everybody who has a motor vehicle is paying taxes. Not everybody.
So how many own motor vehicles and don't pay tax that you need to target?
Let me explain to you something, why we need to look at the motor vehicle as a tax as proposed in the bill. Somebody who has a vehicle definitely has some income, because he'll fuel the car, he'll buy the car. But as I said, not everybody who has a motor vehicle is paying taxes. And that brings us to a tax regime that basically addresses areas.
Okay, what do you mean?
Yes.
When they fill their car, they're paying tax, aren't they? On fuel, isn't it?
Tax on income. I meant tax on income. That is a consumption tax.
Okay, so which income? Which income is this that owners of motor vehicles don't pay?
The income that you got, for example, to go and pay that fuel should have been taxed on you.
Lakini kwa yule ambaye anapokea mshahara, kwa mfano, kama mimi na Sam hapa, mwisho wa mwezi tutapokea mshahara ambao utatozwa ushuru wa PAYE. Kwa hivyo ukija ukinitoza ushuru tena wa gari, ni kama umenitoza ushuru mara mbili. Mimi sio ama Sam wale ambao wanapata mshahara, sio wale ambao hawalipi ushuru. Kwa hivyo unawezaje kuseparate hizi group mbili ambazo unazitaja?
Actually, that is now the main area of discussion. If we are to go for those people who are earning salary only, to get the level of tax that will boost our economy, it means that we have to increase the taxes to compensate for that other person who has a car, but somehow he manages to not to pay. I talked about the issue of compliance. And there are people, as I said, in the economy who, because they are somehow difficult to target, they don't pay taxes on their income.
So how do you protect the one who pays PAYE, who pays affordable housing levy, who pays all these other taxes from this motor vehicle tax, if indeed you are targeting the one who does not pay tax at all?
We are targeting everybody. That person who has a car, when he pays the motor vehicle tax, don't you see that now he will actually within the tax radar? Yes? And therefore, using our systems, we can as well follow these people who might be having income or having expenditure that is related to income that they are earning. But when you go to their tax declaration, you find they are not declaring anything. But I need to emphasize my point. These people, and it's not only the people who own motor vehicles, there are people who are in certain businesses which are also difficult to tax. What the tax policy would require is that you have what we call a presumptive tax. The presumptive tax may be based on an asset, and I think that is a question that members of the public have been asking. Why are you taxing asset?
Okay, we hear you, Maurice, and that's a very contentious issue because, and we'll come back to it, because even organizations like companies that also pay taxation, which is on income tax, they also own motor vehicles. They are servicing, they're financing the operations of the government through different cadres of taxation. But we'll get back to that. First, you have to cross over to the